How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another FPL domain video. My name is Jules and today I'm going to be walking you through the basics of how to build your FPL squad, formations you can go for and the players you might want to pick. As per usual, if you enjoy the content, be sure to hit that subscribe and bell notification button for more hints and tips around Fantasy Premier League. Saying that, let's get into today's video. So before we start talking about actually building your team, we want to have a look at the types of players you can buy. As I mentioned in my last video, each player is given a cost and you have 100 million to decide who it goes on. Personally, when I'm picking my players, it helps me to fit them into 3 or 4 categories. Now at the top of everyone's list are the premium players. Now these are the superstars that play for a top 6 club usually, that are going to bag you a lot of goals, assists or clean sheets. And they're also the player that you should be giving your captain's armband to most of the time. For example, Harry Kane at Tottenham or Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool. Up next are the mid-range players. Now these guys are going to score you points most weeks. They're usually the star players for some mid-table sides like Danny Ings or James Maddison. And in my personal opinion, they're how you do really well in the mini leagues. Because they're less likely to be owned by a lot of managers, if you pick the right ones, they're a great way to get ahead of everyone else. Getting into some of the cheaper price brackets, let's have a look at the budget players. Now, usually these guys are going to be defensive midfielders like N'Golo Kante, or promoted players like Patrick Bamford at Leeds, and most of the time they're hardly going to score you any points because they don't get a lot of goals or assists. For defensive midfielders, it's because they play so deep, and from promoted players, it's because they're the Premier League whipping boys. There can be some very good picks in this price bracket. For example, Phil Foden and Man City is quite popular this year in the budget price bracket because of the departure of David Silva. He's going to be getting more minutes, so he's definitely one to watch. And also, budget players can be preferential for defenders and goalkeepers because this enables you to put a lot more money into the midfield and forward line. The final price point are what the FPL community call enablers. These players are going to cost you 4 to 4.5 million, the cheapest possible guys you can buy, and they're usually going to be youth players or players that are close to retirement that are going to be on the bench, both in Fantasy League and in real life. They are a great way for you to put more money into your midfield and forward line, especially if you can find some surprise breakouts for certain players such as Mason Greenwood last season, only 4.5 million but ended up being a starter a lot of games and bagging a lot of goals. Or the season before, the surprise starts of Aaron Wan-Bissaka when he was still at Crystal Palace. They can be a real enabler for you to put more money into the midfield and forward line. It's really important when you're building your team to balance out the kind of players you have. If your team is really unbalanced with 8 premium players and the rest are all budget and enablers, you're going to get a really poor score if only a few of those players score you any points. The best strategy is to have a range of them, and which players you prioritize depends on your formation, which I'm going to cover in a lot of detail next. So the first formation I'm going to talk about is the classic 3-4-3, and it's definitely the most popular / traditional formation that FPL managers use, and something that I'll be considering for my game week 1 team. You can see that I've not spent that much money on the defence, but I've got a range of players in the midfield and across the front 3. The benefit of this formation is that it's an easy way to transfer in other players and switch to another formation during the season. It's also the only formation we're going to be talking about today that has 3 forwards, and they're obviously the players that are most likely to score you goals in a team, hence why it's so popular with managers. Another popular formation is the 3-5-2, or what I like to call a midfield bolster. Now, the reason it's quite popular is because you get to play 5 in midfield, and these guys get the most points for scoring goals. There are a lot of premium assets available here. You can see that I've got Salah and Aubameyang in this side, who are wingers that are classed as midfielders in the game, but really play as inside forwards and bag you at least 20 goals every season. And these are the players that you should be captaining each week, hence why this is a popular formation to play. The final tactic I'm going to go through is what's called going big at the back through a 4-4-2 or even sometimes a 5-3-2 formation. Now, this is quite beneficial if you want some premium assets in your midfield and forward line, and you know there's some defenders that are either cheap and are definitely going to play, or with high clean sheet or assist potential. This was quite popular at the start of last season because of Alexander-Arnold and Robertson, because the Liverpool defence had a lot of clean sheets the season before, and everyone knew that Robertson and Trent were capable of getting a lot of assists, which by the end of the season they did, because they bagged 25 between them. So it's a completely legitimate tactic to use, and something that you can consider and tinker with this season if you don't want to go with the traditional 3 at the back. The reason it's important to decide a formation is because to fit in all those premium assets you want, you're going to have to pick some budget and enablers that are going to sit on your bench most weeks, and the easiest way to form that squad is to decide what formation you're going to start with. It's worth pointing out that just because you start with a certain formation, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to stick with it. If anything, it is better to be flexible with how you form your squad, because there are going to be some breakout stars this season and you want to be able to reach any price point with the formation that you have. The question you're probably asking is, how do I know which formation to start out the season with? And the honest answer is, it's preferential, and it can heavily depend on how last season went with what's popular. Like I said, big at the back was quite popular last season because of Liverpool's clean sheets and fullbacks, but this season most managers are going to revert back to 3-4-3 and 3-5-2 because of so many midfield and strike options that are available. Chelsea are doing some exciting stuff in the transfer window this season, so the formation you pick is ultimately up to you. I usually alternate between a 3-5-3, a 3-4-3 and a 3-5-2, but I have been known to use 4-4-2 in the past, so it's worth tinkering with, deciding what works for you, and just having a little bit of fun with it. So thank you for watching. In an upcoming video, I'm going to be covering form and fixtures to help you guys decide what players could be good picks ahead of the start of the 2021 season. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell button to get a notification for when upcoming videos are uploaded. If you have any suggestions for other kinds of content, feel free to leave them in the comments below or drop me a tweet. Thank you for watching FPL Domain. I'll see you guys soon.